All right. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the OCD and Anxiety Show. So, my name is Matt Cotty, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds and the creator of the AAA Response. And on this episode, I want to continue the discussion about recovery. And in this episode specifically, I want to talk about the idea of making the decision to recover and reclaim your life. And this title, this concept might be kind of a bit of a turnoff for some people. I understand, because making the decision to recover implies the idea that one would make the decision to remain in the loop. And for most of us, if we've ever been stuck in OCD anxiety, we believe that I would never choose to be in this loop. And this is why making the decision is so important, because if you have followed along with this particular series, we talk about how recovery really is a choice, in the sense of you can choose to engage in behaviors that will continue the loop that we get caught in, whether it's related to OCD and general anxiety, panic attack, phobias, right? The all that stuff, the stress related conditions. That loop is really what we're aiming to break. And what happens a lot of times is that we dis we displace the responsibility of getting better onto other people. And this is why making the choice, or the decision, I should say, to recover is so important. And let's go ahead and talk about what that means. What that means is, when you decide to make that decision, it means that you decide to take full responsibility for your health and your recovery. It doesn't mean that you decide that you're never going to have thoughts that you don't like, or you're never going to experience anxiety, and you're going to try to control these things that are beyond your control. What this is about is, it's about making the decision to say, I'm going to start looking at the things that I can control, and I'm going to systematically start removing those from my life, because I realize that those are the things that are keeping this loop going, that are keeping me stuck, and ultimately limiting the quality of life that I am living. And I, was obviously stuck in these loops for a long time. So I'm not saying this is easy, but there comes a turning point on your journey where you begin to see this as, if you're engaging in behaviors that are keeping the loops going, the reality is you are deciding to engage in those behaviors. If you feel uncertain about something and you're deciding to go get reassurance, you're making that decision. Even though that decision will make you feel better today, it will make you worse tomorrow. Like, there is a certain part of this where we have to take responsibility and say, look, I actually have the power to engage in behaviors or not to engage in behaviors. That is something that I have. I own it. I take responsibility for it. And by doing that, we are then able to start to really remove those things and really become aware of the things we do. And it's not just about reassurance, it's about things you avoid, right? Things you try to control, things you do to cope with anxiety, with substances or alcohol, or controlling other people, right? Distraction techniques that we engage in. There's so many things, when we really break it down on paper, usually, where we can really start to see, like, man, I do a lot of stuff here. A lot of my day is revolved around me not trying to not have these thoughts or not have these feelings that I don't like. And what we've done is we've practiced engaging in these feelings, and we've practiced, or these behaviors, and we've practiced trying to avoid feelings and not feel our feelings for a long time. So it's very habitual. But that doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. It doesn't mean that you can't change those habits. It doesn't mean that you can't um, really do the hard work of learning to feel feelings, of learning to sit with uncomfortable thoughts and emotions, and actually allow that habituation to take place. Because many people have done this. And if many people have recovered from this, you can too. Like, one of the big mistakes people think, and maybe I'll talk about this on the next episode, is they think that for some reason their specific situation is unique and somehow bypasses these these principles, or somehow is exempt from these principles. And man, that's just it's such a limiting and disempowering belief to hold on to that. And what that does is ultimately it displaces responsibility. So when we talk about making the decision to recover, the only person that can ever recover, really do anything to actually help you is you. I tell clients I work with all the time, like I don't heal people. I don't do any mystical craziness, right? It's like you are your own healer. And anyone who tells you differently is lying to you. And that scary sometimes when we think of that, but it also should be so empowering, because it's like you've always been the answer. And here's some of the things that we will do when we're not making the decision to recover is that we'll keep staying in student mode, right? We'll buy book after book after book after book, or you'll watch YouTube video and YouTube video after YouTube video to find that perfect answer, or find that solution that you think is, the missing piece to everything. When really it's just a matter of really looking at yourself and saying, hey, look, like, I know the work I need to do. I need to be able to sit with these feelings that come up. I need to be able to live with uncertainty about this one topic that's run into my mind. I need to not get involved in these conversations. And yes, we teach techniques to help you with that, right? And if anything, that's what the AAA response is all about. It's about having a solution focused approach to make sure that you don't engage in those behaviors. Because telling you not to do behaviors, well, part of that is like, you know, what do I do then instead, right? So there's this kind of like empty void that people feel when you just get told not to do something that you've been doing for maybe some time. But the other problem is you often don't know all the behaviors you're doing. So that's why when we move to a solution focused approach, it inadvertently prevents you from engaging in all the other behaviors that you might not even know that you're doing. A lot of those which are mental, right? The rumination, the analyzation, the distracting yourself mentally, the reassurance, mental avoidance, all that stuff. So making the decision to recover, while it might sound offensive because it implies the idea that you're making the decision not to recover, I know no one is choosing to stay stuck in this loop, right? I mean, no, that would be silly. It'd be silly for me to imply. I never consciously was choosing to stay in that loop, to just to really suffer in that loop. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that at a certain point, though, I had to sit there and say, okay, well, like, what I'm doing is not working. At a certain point in my journey, I had to go, what I'm doing is not working and it's not producing results. And it's very unlikely that another book or another watching that YouTube video for the 15th time in a row, right, is going to be the solution. The reality is I knew it was hard to sit with uncertainty. I knew it was hard to, face fear head on. And a lot of what I was doing was trying to look for ways around that, some secret path through the mountains that no one knows about, so I could do this without having to experience the discomfort. And what I've come to find is that path doesn't exist. And in many ways, it's good that it doesn't exist, because by doing the hard work of this and actually facing fear and learning how to sit with these feelings is a skill set that you build that you can then build upon further. And recovery is not, like I've talked about, is not this mystical destination you reach, but it's a practice that you engage in. And the more and more you engage in this, the better and better your health becomes. So when you are fighting this process and you're looking for that thing that's going to bypass all the stuff that deep down you need to do, the reality is you have to realize that that's making a decision to stay in the loop. When you engage in behaviors and you shouldn't, that's making the decision to stay in the loop. You may not see it like that. You're making the decision to feel better today, and that's how you see it, and so you justify what's going to make me feel better. But in the same context of an addiction, you have to think of it in that context. Like, getting that relief and that feeling today keeps you in that trap of addiction tomorrow. And you can keep using and keep using and keep using and keep using, but eventually you're going to have to stop doing those behaviors that make you feel better. Metaphorically, of course, we're talking, and again, we might be talking about actual substances here too, right? Because it's kind of that all encompassing of any behavior that's really giving you that relief that you're looking for. And once you remove that, being able to sit with those feelings and to experience them and allow your body to process them and to actually have those thoughts, kind of run in your head, and learn the practice of not engaging with them. And all those behavior skill sets are again, once we start practicing that more and more and more and not engaging the behaviors, yeah, it's hard at first, but you get better and better and better and better at it. And that's the turning point that we're talking about here. That's the turning point on this journey, is that at that point, you've made the decision to say, hey, look, like I'm all into this. I know what I'm doing is not working. I know it hasn't worked. Probably ain't going to work in the future. So I'm going to make the decision to go a new route, and I'm going to make the decision to reclaim my life and take back control. And that is really what it means to make the decision to recover. It means not to say that you're choosing to remain in this loop, but it's about choosing. It's about choosing to say, hey, look, I know that I've been doing these behaviors to make myself feel good today, and I need to stop doing that because it's keeping me stuck. So I'm going to make the decision to get better tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And that is a much different process than it is to feel better today. So it's really about not this black and white, you're making the decision to stay stuck. I don't really like looking at it like that. It's just really taking two different paths. You can choose to keep doing the behaviors that make you feel better today, and that keeps you trapped tomorrow. Or we can start making decisions and behaviors and engaging in behaviors that are going to help us tomorrow and the next day and the next day on a much higher trajectory, and really help us reach the kind of levels of health that we want to reach. And that's really what it's about. And so I hope that this was helpful for you. And if you're, if you're a listener to the show or a supporter, please help us out by liking and subscribing, as well as leaving a comment or review on iTunes. That really helps us. And there's also some resources down in the links in the show notes right below. And so you can check those out. There's a link to a free download to get you started, as well as some different resources for you over at restoredminds.com. So thank you so much for hanging out today. I hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you so much for watching that video. And so if you're struggling with OCD and anxiety, I just wanted to let you know that we have a free training for you over at Restored Minds, where you can start learning how to use our AAA response to really break out of that loop and ultimately take back control of your life. And all you need to do to access is just click the little link below, and you'll be taken to a page where you can register today. Thank you so much.